Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Write Your Bestseller in 1 Hour workshop. I'm so glad to have you here with us today. Please do grab pen, pencil, colored pencils. You can do it on your computer if you want to. We were just talking about the fact, Quinn, this is a great tip if you haven't ever used this before. Sticky notes for outlining. You put each little concept on one of the sticky notes, and then you can arrange them. You can just kind of move them all over the place, and it works really well for you. So that's a possibility as well. I've even had people that they've shown me screenshots of great big giant whiteboards that they've done this on. So welcome to the Write Your Bestseller in 1 Hour workshop. For those of you that are part of the rest of the weekend, this is going to set the stage for everything we do this weekend. It's going to get your mind going. It's going to get an outline for you and really going to make everything else show up powerfully. And for the rest of you, I've had people that have written as much as 10 books that I know of now, just from what we're going to go through during this session together today. So with that said, let's move on here. We'll see how well my animations work. So this slide is going to just show you about 156 book covers. In the first year that I did this, there were 156 people that wrote their books. Of those 156 people, that on the first day their book came out represents over 80,000 people whose lives were touched by their books. Now, I only tracked first day that year, and I haven't been able to keep up with it, but you can extrapolate that out to it's about 3,000, so multiply that by about 200 now. It's 3,000-ish that I've worked with now. And if you multiply that 80,000 by that number, I'll let the accountants in the room do the math on that if they want to give us a number. But lives that have been touched by simply writing what they know in the world. What you can expect is I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am, the benefits to you of being a best-selling author, and then, of course, we're going to walk through our bestseller formula. So let me tell you a little bit about me. I am an international best-selling author. I currently have 11 books, and I'm working on at least 5 more that I know of. My name is Steve Kidd. I created a system. It's been around for almost 14 years now. Thousands have used to write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. Because we don't just write books, we write bestsellers. I want you to understand somebody is waiting on you. Do you have a story? Do you have a solution to a problem? And maybe it's an easy solution. Maybe it's how to make washing dishes fun. It doesn't have to be the cure for cancer, but do people ever come to you for answers? Do people tell you, oh, you need to write a book about that? We're here to help share you and your message with the world because it matters. It's important. It makes a difference. And just some of the benefits of becoming a best-selling author is it helps increase your ability to get speaking gigs. It is the foundational element of everything you do in marketing. To give you an idea, over 50% of all movies that get made are based off of best-selling books, and over 80% of movies that win awards of some sort are based off of bestsellers. It is the #1 influencer credential, and it will help you get more clients. Your book isn't really about how much money can I make $1 or $2 at a time with a book. It's really about all the things your book leads you to, and that title, best-selling author. So let's look at a few of the people I've worked with. Forrest Folan and Anthony Steele, their book, Awakening Your Fitness Journey, they became #1 best-selling authors in multiple categories in the first 24 hours. And from that, they've launched a whole brand new multi-6-figure company that made over $200,000 in the first year. In fact, they had to bring on another partner, an investor, to help them with their business, all from what was generated from their book. My good friend, Pastor Andrea Humphrey, whose book not only was #1, but it was number 84 out of all books on Amazon. Think about that for a minute. The millions upon millions of books on Amazon, her book was number 84 out of all of them. She started getting people who were calling her and saying, hey, I didn't even know that you did speaking, let alone had a book. Her other books that she had started selling. In fact, she got so much traffic that her website crashed. And then Stuart Ross, who is pretty much the Tony Robbins of the UK, from what my people in the UK tell me. Those of you that are from there, you can tell me if you don't agree, but that's what I'm told. With all of the credibility he had, he did not have himself as a best-selling author. And now he can add to everything else he does that he is a #1 best-selling author. And it helped him increase his demand and the number of speaking gigs that he got. Dr. Alicia Griffith, Dr. Allie, who you may have even have seen on Good Morning America or the Today Show, started all of that from being a best-selling author. Now you need to understand, Dr. Allie is a doctor. She's a medical doctor. She's an audiologist that spent 20 years working in the field specifically of children with autism. And was a total expert in it, not to mention the fact that her son shown there on the cover, is also an autistic young man, and he was 10 years old at the time they wrote the book. And she will be the one to tell you, she got more credibility out of being a best-selling author than having been a medical doctor for 20 years. And that launched her national book tour and was the reason why she got on shows like Good Morning America. And then, of course, there's Carl Michelle, 365 Hip Hop, great book. If you have any teens in your life that like any music, but especially hip hop, this is the book to give to them. It is a daily quote book, and it does have a motivational each day. Carl, and I didn't look today, but I looked yesterday. Carl's book came out January 1st of 2016, and he is still in the top 10 bestsellers. He's been on MTV, been at the White House as an invited guest, not just like he took the White House tour, and was at Jadakiss' birthday party, so many other things. In fact, there's a picture of Carl standing with Common. Some of you may know him.
Steve, just a quick question. Was that book just like 365 quotes, one quote per page, or what?
Well, it actually ended up being a 500-page book because he also is an artist. And so he did some drawings of some of the artists whose quotes he used. But yes, he has an amazing capability to take a quote out of a song that you would never guess has any redeeming qualities and find something amazingly motivational. And yes, it's designed to go through one per day for the whole year.
Wow.
Because we don't write books, we write bestsellers. That's right. Thank you. There is a formula to it. Now, much like when you discovered as a kid that it was your parents putting the presents under the Christmas tree, not Santa Claus, I am here to tell you that it is a formula. It's not magic. But what we do in the formula is help determine what consumers want and then create a methodology that is easy, time-saving, money-saving, and will make you a bestseller guaranteed. We've done it thousands of times, have a 100% success rate. Now, what kind of book should I write? I know a lot of you are thinking about that. And a lot of you think of giant books like the one, for those of you that can see my little picture up in the corner, the one up in the corner of me, Terry Brooks' 350-page book. That's usually what we think about. Actually, Amazon defines a short read as a book of 100 pages or less in print. It allows the book to be consumed faster. It allows people to get the solution quicker, and it gets you more reviews faster. And most importantly, it is the most in-demand kind of books. If your book is 100 pages or less, this is Amazon statistics. Amazon statistics show that more than 60% of the readers who get your book will read it and finish it. However, if your book goes from 101 to 200 pages, that 60% drops to only 20% of the readers that ever finish it. Now, here's where it gets even worse. If your book is more than 200 pages, It's less than 3% of readers that ever finish the book. Now, conceptually, what we want to do in our book when we're using it for marketing is have, or even if we're just doing it to help somebody with their life, is we have that thing they need to take action on at the end of the book. We have to teach them all the stuff and then set them on a path moving forward. But if they never finish the book, then they never get to that place. And of course, all of us can think of all the books we have on our shelf that we've never finished ourselves. We don't want our people to be in the less than 3% of those that finish it. We want to help them finish the book. This is such a powerful tool that John Maxwell, who some of you may know, who has now 100+ books, all of his books now in his series are being launched as 100 to 150 page books. This is an example of the one series that he did here a couple of years ago. Seth Godin, who many of you may know, has a whole bunch of his books that are considered short reads. 5 of the books are less than 100 pages. And V is for Vulnerable, which is an amazing New York Times best-selling book, is only 64 pages long. And then how many of you know who Brene Brown is? Anybody ever heard her name? Brene's made some impact. Gifts of Imperfection is 160 pages. It has 1-inch margins. Each of the chapters start about halfway down the page, and it's double spaced. It's double spaced in the paragraph spacing. With all of that, if you brought it down to tighter margins and less spacing, it would be a less than 100-page book. And as it says right there on the cover, it is a #1 New York Times bestseller and was the editor's best book of the month. And that's #1 bestseller in self-help, by the way, which is a nearly impossible category to rank in. How many of you have ever been at work and had them give you the book, Who Moved My Cheese, as a book that you needed to read in corporate? It's a pretty popular book in corporate. This little book, what you'll be excited to know when you get it, is that it's only 95 pages in large print. However, the book has been translated into 44 different languages, and this number is actually a little old now, but over 28 million copies have sold worldwide. Powerful little book. And then for those of you that are like, well, how short can a book be? This is one of my favorite books on marketing ever. It's called Marketing in Less Than 1,000 Words. And yes, it is literally, Quinn, less than 1,000 words. The whole book is less than 1,000 words. In fact, it's 6 pages, but it's a #1 bestseller, 999 words. And I guarantee you, no matter how long you've been doing marketing, you will read this book and you will get something out of it. And there have been more than 40,000 people that have downloaded this little tiny book and learned something new about marketing just from 999 words. So it's not about quantity of words, it's about the quality, which leads us to say, what should we write? What do you want to be known for? Now, this is some of the things we want to start thinking about because we're moving into putting pen to paper here now. What do you want to be known for? If you could only pick one thing in the whole wide world, what would that be? Let's make it a little easier on you. What's that program or talk or whatever that you want to focus on over the course of this next year, or maybe even just the next 6 months? If you're sitting next to somebody at an airport waiting for a flight and you ran into your perfect ideal customer, what is that one thing you absolutely want to make sure that you share with everyone in the world? Now, for some of us, we know that really clearly. And for others, it's like, I need to learn that. And that's part of what we're going to go through here. So grab your paper or your sticky notes or what have you. Get ready to start making some notes. Quinn, feel free in here if anything isn't clear to ask me questions. The rest of you, feel free to put messages in the chat and I will look over at them a little bit in just a little bit and try to go back and forth to the questions as well. And then we're going to have open time for Q&A afterwards. So take on your paper and draw in the middle of it a circle. Think of it as a bullseye. This is the perfect hit of throwing darts, shooting the arrow, shooting the gun, whatever you want to shoot. But this is what you really want to hit. In that circle, I want you to put, if you already know the title of your book, great, or if not, the topic. What is that thing you talk about? Maybe you talk to people, like for example, Quinn, I know you talk to people, that topic is how to retire in 30 years rather than 40. Okay.
No, not 33.
I'm sorry, 3 years. I knew what I was saying, and then I said it
The
wrong.
3-year
3
freedom
years
plan,
rather
not
than
30.
40. Yes. Yeah, the 3-year freedom plan. So anything like that. And these are notes for you. So you can put them in your own shorthand as long as you know what it is. And you know, for some of you, I did this the first time I did it for myself. I actually did it, typed it out because I couldn't read my own handwriting. And so that's fine if you need to do that too. Now on this, from this circle, I want you to draw 4 lines, north, south, east, and west. Okay, one up, one to the right, one to the left, one down. Okay. We're going to start with the line that goes off to the right, pointing to the, if you're thinking compass points to the east. This is our who and why. We want to talk about who we're writing this book to and why it's important. But more importantly, in this section, we are telling them why they want to work with us and how we discovered who are you and why is it so important for you to do it. We need to gain people's know, like, and trust before we can teach them something. We buy from people that we know, like, and trust. So we're talking a little bit about who we are, what our life and business looks like now in our life. So we're not talking about, you know, I have millions of zeros in my bank account, you know, I'm a multi-billionaire now, or any of those kind of things, but it's relatable. It's what is the thing in my life now that I know that the person I want to help wants to attain. Maybe, Quinn, maybe it is that I'm in a place where I could retire any point that I wanted to now because I spent the last 3 years doing what I'm going to teach you to do in the next 3 years. And then you're telling them, this is what life looks like when you live that way. So we start off there, and then we want to go back to, but it wasn't always that way. This is the stuff I went through. This is the economic crash I did. This is the abuse I suffered. This is whatever that thing is. And I always have people that ask me at this point, it's like, you know, I've had a pretty good life. I don't really have it down. I encourage you to think about before you learned what you now teach, what did life look like? Doesn't mean it has to be gloom and doom, but it definitely, the reason why you discovered it was because it made your own life better. And then it's also helped other people. And then we want to talk about what kind of impact did that have? So those are going to be 3 lines that we draw below that line. What's my best now? And again, these are just notes to us, to ourselves. What's my best now? What was my worst then? What was that low point? You know, you've heard people talk about that Phoenix moment. Well, the thing about breakthrough, I always say this, the thing about breakthrough is nobody wants to talk about the breaking or the through. We want to be vulnerable enough with our people to talk to them about the breaking and the through. My life hasn't always been perfect. I'm not standing up here on a lofty mountain peak as a person of perfection. I've been through some stuff. I've been where you are. Let me help you get through it sooner, quicker, faster. And then, of course, what I learned, why am I sharing this with you? Why is it important for you to learn? Okay? So now let's take a minute or two here for those of you that are brainstorming. Some of you just, you know, you knew it and you put those 3 lines in, but just take a minute. You know, we're not going to hang here too long. Take a minute. Feel free to type in the chat if you want to, if you aren't clear on any of those. And for any of you that have joined since we started in, welcome. We're glad to have you here. This is who I am today, but it hasn't always been this way. And this is what I learned. Those are those three things. Okay. I can't see hand raises. So, squeak and chat or something if you need clarity or if we move on to the next slide too quick. Okay. So now next, we're going to go with the line that's going south. We're going down. This is section 2 of our book. And the question here is, what does this solve? What is the thing that I'm going to teach you? And most importantly, what's in it for me? Meaning, what's in it for the reader? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And then after that, they want to know, what does your caring do for me? Does that make sense? So is what we're teaching them going to help them have more money, greater joy, more freedom, deeper meaning? What problem does it solve? What is that thing? And again, I used an example earlier of your book could be about teaching people how to find joy in doing dishes. It doesn't have to be the cure for cancer, but for a person who, they ignore their dishes for days, weeks, months, hopefully not months, but for the person who does that, to find joy in having a clean house, to find hope in a hopeless situation, to, going back to your book, Quinn, to have the potential of living a truly financially free life. What does that look like? What is the reason why the 40-year plan doesn't work? And how real is it that a person could really do that in 3 years? Does anybody need a couple more minutes to make some notes on that before we move on? So we're going to give ourselves 3 lines there just to kind of give ourselves some notes of some stories of some people that we've helped or things that have helped in our own lives. What kind of stuff did we do? We don't want to bombard them with stories, but we do want to pepper in stories and help them really understand what is the problem and what is the solution. I'm going to make it really easy for you guys. When it comes to what we want to write our book about, we want to take one point, make it really clear, and then give them a clear action from that one point. And then if there's an additional point for that, we want to actually do it as a second book. That's where short reads show up so powerfully, is because then we can have a conversation and an interaction with the people rather than dropping everything on them that we know right now today and overwhelming them, because a person who is overwhelmed won't take action.
Can I ask you a question, Steve?
Yes.
You just you just said something that kind of made me, I need to clarify this with you. So if my 3-year freedom plan requires 6 steps, does it mean that I need to condense it in a way that it works in one book? Because I was thinking it was going to be a bit longer than 100 pages, but I would love to be able to make, can I do 1 step for each book? Because that'll be really short, or at least shorter.
Yes. So if you think about any place in those 6 steps where a person needs to take an action before they really should go on to the next step, that should be the end of that book. And then the next step should be the next book, so that we put them into action and we make it easy. I'll give you a perfect example of a book. Many of you may know the book Profit First. If any of you ever have read the book Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. Great book. I love Mike. I've had him on my show. Funny guy. If you haven't read the book, get it in audio form. Mike is hilarious and it's fun to listen to him in audio form. But Profit First is a 350-ish page book. And the problem with Profit First is in the audio, Mike even says, okay, stop the audio here and go do this before you go on. What should have happened was he should have stopped the book there and had this is this little bite-sized piece that you can wrap your head around. Now go work on that. And then come back and do book 2 to do the next thing. Would be better for it to be a 25-page book and have them get powerful solutions and take a next step than to have a 250-page book and have them stop at page 50.
That makes total sense. Wow. And it makes it writing easier too. It's like
Yes.
it's a mini project that we're gonna finish like in a weekend. That no wonder this is so good. Thanks.
All right. So hopefully you've made some notes on section 2 for yourself. Let's move on to section 3. That's our line that's going west. Okay. Section 3, we're talking about what's the downside if we don't do this. People take action either because of, love or fear, basically. Either it's the motivation to do something, or it's the motivation, the fear of not doing something that motivates a person. And often, sometimes we have to look at what happens if we don't do this. Now, usually people know that because they've been not doing it for a really long time. But until we bring it up to them, they don't think about that. So again, going back to your program, Quinn, if if they don't do it, they'll have less money. They'll probably be stressed out more about bills and retirement. The reality, based on what you said in your summit last weekend or your workshop last weekend, is a person will go through and they'll just about get to the top, and then with the old school plan, the market crashes and they start all over again, and it's kind of like the guy that's pushing the rock up the hill, and just before it gets to the top, it rolls all the way back down to the bottom. And a lot of people will understand that. And this is another great place for us to be vulnerable, because we can say, look, I know what it's like to procrastinate on that. I've done it myself. I know what it's like to have that crash moment in your life. And then you just kind of sit on the sidelines and you lick your wounds. And there's a time for that. So it isn't a matter of feeling judged in this section, but more a matter of acknowledging, do we want, and a good friend of mine uses this phrase all the time. She says, I ask myself every day, do I want more of this or less of this? And then if I want more of it, I do more of that. And if I want less of it, I stop doing that thing, so that I'm no longer stuck in a place that I don't really want to be in the first place. And here's a great place for us also to give people permission for the fact that even if you have to restart every day, it's okay. We don't have to be in judgment. So again, in section 3, we've got our 3 lines. We can talk about how bad it is currently. We can talk to them about, if you had done this, you say to yourself, I could have been this. How many of you have ever worked with somebody and had them say to you, I wish I would have known that sooner? Or maybe you've even been in a coaching program and you're like, I wish I would have known that sooner, right? Another question in this section is, if you could go back in time to the younger version of yourself, and it doesn't matter when, it could be last week or it could be 20 years ago, what is the one piece of advice that you would give you that could help you do what you now know quicker, sooner, faster? The program you now teach, imagine if instead of learning it and starting it 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you would have done it 20 or 30 years ago. And what would your life be like if you could have done that? Not again so that we can be in a place of judgment, but so that we can help people with a solution that we wish we would have had before. Just looking over here real quick to make sure we don't have any comments before we go on. Does that make sense, Quinn? Okay. So
Yes,
now we're
sir.
going to, good. So now we're going to move into section 4. Section 4 is what key things can the reader do right now today? The thought here is, if you set down the book right now, what can you take action on right now? So in section 2, and we already talked about your 6 points, but let's say that point 1 has 6 sub things that you've got to do in order to master number 1 in your teaching. When does that make sense? You got to do these things. You need to set up these 4 bank accounts, or you've got to do whatever. In section 2, we've taught them what to do. We've taught them the actions of that. In section 4, we're now empowering them to begin to act immediately. Put the book down and take this 1 step. I always think of the old cartoon, it'll date how old I am, back in the 70s, where the song was put 1 foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking across the floor. We want to help them stretch that foot out and just make that first step, not every step, not change their whole world, not go from, eating completely wrong every single day and taking in thousands more calories than they need to being on a 800 calorie a day diet overnight. We know that's going to help them succeed, not succeed, they're going to fail. But if they, I wrote a book with a lady, and her suggestion was still go to McDonald's, but take 1 of the pieces of bread, not both of them, just take 1 of them off. Just start there by taking the bottom bread, it's dry anyway, and just do that, and it's those little things. What can a person do right now today that can begin to make an impact on their lives? Now, in this, I say the one thing may end up needing to be in, 4 or 5 little tips. I'm going to tell you that when it comes to actions, whenever you give somebody more than 3 choices, it overwhelms them and they choose nothing. So when you go for your tips on your one thing, be thinking about, are these suggestions of, these are ways how you can do this one thing? And that's why I keep saying one thing rather than 3, is because I really think you should focus on that one and just help them move. Are these tips on how to be able to do that one thing, or am I spilling into the next step before they take the first step? Does that make sense? Have you ever caught yourself doing that, where somebody really needs step 1, but you already see step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you're just excited about it and you want to give them all of them right now? And then you see them a couple of weeks or a couple of months later and they haven't done anything, because we overwhelmed them, and we all do it. So it's not a place of judgment by any means. It's just simply a matter of, when we slow down and we give them that one thing that's immediately actionable, then they can really begin to have success in their life. So I want to pause for a minute again and give you some time to think about, number 1, what is step 1? While you're doing that, I'm going to paint a picture for you to help you visualize it. So imagine that these 4 steps are a deep conversation that you've had with your perfect customer. And tomorrow, for those of you that are signed up to be part of the whole weekend, the first thing we're going to talk about is your ideal client, who that person is. Imagine you're on a cross-country flight, 4, 5, 6 hours with the perfect client, and you've shared heart to heart. You just almost immediately, when you sat down, you connected, and you just knew, oh my gosh, I can help this person. This is, if I could only ever work with this one person for the rest of my life, this person is exactly it. And you've been sharing these things, and you've helped them, and you've given them help and advice, and you guys have connected spirit to spirit on this flight. And so now you're reaching a point where the pilot says, we're on final approach and the plane's going to be landing. What is the one thing you have to now, all of a sudden, now you've got 15 to 20 minutes before the plane's on the ground and the chaos of deboarding a plane. What is that one thing that out of everything you've talked about, they need to take action on? What can they do right now? Does everybody kind of have a feel for that? Nod your heads, clap your hands, do a backflip, whatever you could do to keep the blood flowing, basically. All right. So now we have, if you did it on a piece of paper like this, you have a pinwheel, basically, with a bullseye right in the middle of it. Now, maybe you struggled at the beginning. You're like, I don't really know what the title was supposed to be. And maybe you kind of skipped that. Maybe now that you see what that one thing is, maybe now you understand, oh, I do see what that is now. And now you can fill in your bullseye. So our most important points for each of the sections. In section 1, this is reviewing, going back. And if you have any questions, feel free to pipe, chime in here. And John, that's a great question. How to distill to one thing. The thing about it is, John, is that we need to think about it as a journey. And when you travel from here, whether it's around the corner or it's around the world, the first step is what? Pack your bag, make sure the bag's in the car, make sure that the car has gas. I mean, whatever that first thing that people need to do that they don't normally do, that's that one thing that they want to start with in this thing. Does that make sense? Feel free to feedback if you want to. So in section 1, this is who I am today, but it hasn't always been this way. And this is what I discovered that's made this difference in my life, and I hope will make in yours. We're connecting with them in section 1. In section 2, what does doing this solve? We want to give them the steps. We want to teach them. We want to, there's the age-old concept in public speaking of tell a person what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. That's basically all encompassed in step 2. But at the end of the day, it all has to boil down to what does it solve for them? The stories are only good if the story is something that solves something for them. Section 3, what if you don't do it? We're doing 2 things in this. We're letting them off the hook. You don't have to do it. I'm not here to be your taskmaster. I'm not going to show up at your house and whip you if you don't do this. But here's the things you've been experiencing, and if you'd like to not experience them anymore, you need to take action on what we talked about in step 2. If not, you're going to continue having these things. I know in my own life, if I would have known, I would have done it sooner. And then section 4, again, is what can they do right now today? So again, going back to that, John, if they set down the book, what's the very first thing after reading the book that they can take action on right now? If you're doing mental work, the next summit that Quinn and I are doing is going to be more mindset based. And if you're doing mindset kind of things, it's almost always something that you begin saying to yourself immediately, something that triggers your mind to switch just a little bit. What's a new mantra that you can say to yourself? What is, and if we give them, for example, mirror work. I have a friend of mine that is just a huge expert in mirror work. But The downside to mirror work is typically we teach to do it in the mornings. If we're going to do that with the book, we want to say, now you're going to do this in the mornings, every morning when you're, shaving or brushing your teeth or whatever. But what I want you to do is practice that and do this and write it on a sticky note and stick it on the mirror so that when you look at it, you can immediately begin to say it. You don't have to think about, what was that mantra again? I don't remember it exactly. And so our one thing can be that easy. Okay, take out a sticky note and write this down. So for example, with writing your book in 1 hour or writing your book over the course of a weekend, the one thing that you absolutely can, could, and should do tonight is you should make sure that you understand your notes on all 4 of these steps, that they make sense to you, and that you could then use them to be able to talk to. Maybe not write them all out, maybe not sit down with Word and type out a whole book, but at the very least be able to talk through this, 1, 2, 3, 4 with a person. That's the one thing you can do, is hone those notes down to the point where they can be reminders to you of the flow. If we were doing my workshop that I do that is for creating your signature talk, it would be the same thing. It's just then, rather than putting it in book form, we would be doing it in writing form. And we would take these things and we would expand it all the way out and then break it all the way back down to the point where, you could pretty well just put on a piece of paper 1, 2, 3, 4, and you've got it. Does that make sense? And John, if you have more questions on distilling it, please let me know, because we don't want to leave you in confusion today. Now, one more thing to spice this all up, because we connect with people through stories. So in each of the sections, up in the corner maybe, write just a note to yourself about a story that emphasizes each of those 4 sections. Struggles that you've had, obstacles that you've overcome. So, and it's just a little note to yourself. The time that I made it through the snow all by myself in 5th grade, or the time when, my brothers hated me because we had to get rid of the dog because I was allergic to dogs. Or whatever, and it can be even more brief than that for yourself. I am going to encourage you for one thing. Your stories are about connecting with the reader. So it's not your opportunity to brag about yourself. I'm not saying any of you would do that, but I'm just saying, but it is your opportunity to be vulnerable. In our vulnerability is when we create our connection and our lifelong relationship with the people that we were put on this earth to serve.
Steve, how many stories should we have? Like for each of those quadrant? Is it?
So I'm just asking for 1 story per quadrant.
Okay.
1 story that emphasizes each of those sections. So your paper is going to look something like this. A little note in each of the corners to yourself of what the story that emphasizes that is. So in section 1, it might be the time that there was no food in the house. You didn't know how you were going to feed the kids, but they still had to eat because, kids, right? You can't just not feed your kids. And that can connect you with the people. In quadrant 2, it might be, I was working with Mary, and Mary was really struggling with this thing. And then the light bulb turned on from XYZ. And from now on, she's never had a problem with that before. Well, we get a reply. I unfortunately missed the, yes, the replay is going to be posted on my Facebook page, and I will be sending you a link to my Facebook page to be able to view it as well. So no worries. And we're going to be doing Q&A after we're done with all the slides. So make little notes to yourself for each of the 4 additional stories. And guess what? Congratulations, Quinn. If you made notes on all this, you have now written the rough draft of your book.
My gosh, Steve, you have made this so simple. This is so good. I've always thought this is going to be a lot harder than, well, in my mind, I always thought it's going to be a lot harder. But you have made it so simple. Well, I'm going to be working tonight, that's for sure. But it is, you boiled it down to like so simple. This is so good. Thank you.
Anne Marie, I'm not sure what your question about slides is.
Will we
This is a
get them?
PowerPoint. Oh, you'll get the video of all of this.
Okay. And how many words is 100 pages?
So I never go on word count because content is king, but in a published paperback book, there is approximately 200 to 250 words per page. So a 100-page book would be approximately 20 to 25,000 words. Now, it depends on the words you're using. I had somebody who was like, no, there are exactly X number of words per line, and that is the Chicago standard. And I was like, well, it really depends on what words you're using. You know, if you got a lot of little words, you can put a lot of those on a line. And if you're using, is anybody here from Germany? If you're using the word Ausgezeichnet, those of you that know German at all know that that is the German word for excellent. That is a very, you know, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious kind of a word. Okay. And that is going to take up probably a whole line all by itself. So, all right. So now here's the best word. Here's the best news of all. Other than your homework tonight to make sure you have your notes, I'm encouraging you to never write another word again. No pen to paper, no computers, nothing. I'm encouraging you to write your book the same way that Sir Richard Branson wrote his book. All of them. This happens to be one of them. And that's speaking to write. We have the ability to interview you directly, and we can actually go from that interview to your book in as little as 30 days. When we speak, it brings out the vulnerable, authentic us. Now, the reason why journaling works so well in therapy is because writing is cathartic. So when you sit down and you write your book, it tends to be very internal, tends to be for the reader that's reading those words as you're writing them, you. And so you are doing great therapy on yourself, but it's not reader centric. The flip side to that is when you're having a conversation with a person, you typically, there are a few people who fall short of this, but most people, when we're having a conversation, the conversation is intended to be interactive, to be for the person you're talking to. When a person asks you a question, you respond to the answer to that. You don't just take a left turn at Albuquerque at whatever personal thing you're dealing with. I mean, sometimes that happens, but then the conversation kind of ends pretty quickly. So it gives us the ability to be able to put out the teaching that we need to teach, vulnerably and authentic, in a conversational style, which is really the kind of books everybody really enjoys reading, but being 100% your words. So it's not, here's the dirty little secret of ghostwriters. And I have some really good friends that are ghostwriters, and I'm not in any way trying to disparage them, but a ghostwriter will do an interview with you. I mean, then they take and they write the book in their words and their style. So it's actually technically their style. And if you know ghostwriters, even the ones that are really good at having it sound like the other person, you can begin to start telling, oh yeah, that is Janet Schweitzer, that is how she always comes across. And like, for example, Janet being a perfect example, Janet is the person who did the ghostwriting for Lisa Nichols' book, Abundance Now. If you read Abundance Now and you listen to Abundance Now, you can tell the difference between the way Lisa explains things and the way Janet tried as best as she could to capture Lisa's voice. Does that make sense? And I want you to know this formula works. Doing speaking to write is powerful. Dr. Drayon Birch, now, Dr. Drayon Birch is a doctor. In fact, side note, has nothing to do with the workshop, but he goes by the name Dr. Dre, and he was actually sued by the rapper Dr. Dre for the name Dr. Dre, and he actually won the lawsuit because A, he's a doctor, and he's been going by Dre for many, many more years before that. Like I said, it has nothing to do with the workshop, but it was a fun thing. Lisa Sasevich was not who Ghost wrote At Least Abundance Now, John, if that's what you're referring to. So Dr. Dre, we did his book, Medicine to Mogul, because his whole concern for doctors was they teach you all about medicine, but they don't teach you how to be business people. So he was teaching doctors how to be business people. Now, do keep in mind that all the things I'm getting ready to show you, his client base is doctors. So we're talking a little higher end client. The book, of course, was a #1 bestseller. It was #9 out of all medical books. But most importantly, he created a course on purpose that we did with the book from the beginning. And the course sold $158,620,000 in less than 60 days, in the first less than 60 days. That is the power of the book and being able to say of your course that it's based on your bestseller. That's what the formula is designed for, is to take you to your next step and make you the money where the money is going to be made. Yes, you can write your book this weekend. We're going to do it. Those of you who are signed up, I'm so excited. We're going to have so much fun this weekend, and it's going to be active. We're going to be taking notes, working, doing interviews, so please do make sure you watch the video so you know how to be able to do voice to type transcription when you're being interviewed, so you get the transcript of your stuff. For those of you who are on the workshop and who are like, well, I want to write my book this weekend now. Or for those of you who are like, I can't make it this weekend, or I got a free ticket and I still can't make it this weekend. For all of you, I'm doing something that is insane. Quinn, this is insane. You can go ahead and tell me I'm insane now and then. The virtual writing weekend is typically a $3,000 program. The video version of it, so the automated, you just get the videos dripped to you. They're typically a 12 video series that you get one a week, basically. So it would take you 12 weeks to go through. That normally sells for $1,800. This weekend, I'm going to be recording the whole thing anyway. And if you want to see, now this replay of this, what we did tonight, is free. And I'm going to post it and send it to all of you. But if you want the recording for this weekend, whether you got a free ticket from the summit or not, if you want the recording, normally I would charge you $1,800 for that. Leading up to today, I've been saying you can get that for $987. Tonight only, I'm actually going to let you have it for $500. That is all the recordings for the whole weekend, all of the questions and answers and everything we do. And I'm going to give you, as a very special bonus, a 30-minute Lifeline call directly with me. Now, just to give you an idea, I charge $1,200 an hour for those kind of one-on-one consultation calls to save somebody who's doing their book themselves. But that's going to be my free bonus to you. That's $500. And, you just go there and sign up for it. And I will make sure that you get all of the recordings of the whole entire weekend, whether you're with us live or, you're not able to make it. Again, that's bestsellerworkshop.com, because I want you to know your book is important. What you do in the world is amazing. It's powerful and it's needed. Somebody is waiting on you. There's somebody that made a bad choice today, last week, last month, for the last decade, because they didn't know that simple one thing that they can do that you can teach them in your book. And I encourage you to share your message with the world. And yes, that is a picture of me. And yes, that is my latest international best-selling book, The Ultimate Marketing Tool of a Lifetime. For any of you that sign up for this, meaning that you're here, or because I'm now talking also to the people who are watching this forever on Facebook Live. Now, those of you on Facebook Live, you're disappointed because you couldn't get the $500 offer on the thing. I'm sorry, but it was only good for this weekend. But for all of you, if you just simply write in the comments on the Facebook Live or, on the Facebook replay of this, I'm going to give you a free copy, ebook copy of my book, The Ultimate Marketing Tool of a Lifetime, just as my thank you for joining me here tonight.
That is so generous of you, Steve. So just to clarify, they get the replay of the entire weekend and half an hour consultation with you, which is normally you charge $1,200 per hour. That's like $600 right there. And can they attend the entire workshop as well, or just watch the replay
Yes,
only?
they can attend the entire workshop as well.
And all for $500? Wow.
All for $500.
Very generous. Thank you, Steve. That's awesome. Because I believe that the best thing is actually the consultation with you. Because this is the difference between a bestseller or not. Seriously, guys. You can get the book done. You can get everything done. But to get to the bestseller, that would be what Steve can help you with.
Absolutely. And I look forward to working with you guys. To give you an idea on that free consultation, because I did this just yesterday and she posted about it. She's at a meeting, or she would have been here with us live, but my friend Debris was struggling with getting her book to upload. It just wouldn't do for her. And I did for her. She had spent the literally whole day unable to get her ebook to upload to KDP. I did it for her in about 15 or 20 minutes. Now, keep in mind that I have the tools on my computer and I do this all day long. So I can do in 15 minutes what takes most people hours to do. But it's that kind of powerful stuff that we can do, or answer questions for you, or, we could even do the whole 30 minutes me interviewing you. And you could have quite a bit, not all, but quite a bit of your book even done during that time, whatever you want to use your 30 minutes for. I'm looking forward to being able to meet with you guys. So if you haven't done that yet, again, that's bestsellerworkshop.com. I'll drop it in the end.
That's so awesome. Shall we open up for Q&A then?
Yes.
All right. So I know that some of you are registered for the entire weekend because you won the ticket. So congratulations for that. And then I know that some of you are here just to get a taste of this and see if this is something that you're ready to launch your bestseller this weekend. And I honestly believe that this is a great deal. Like, Steve, you are crazy. So you are crazy.
Tell me I was crazy.
But because here's what I know people charge, okay? For someone, I know that when they write a compilation book, which means you have like 10, 20, maybe even 30 authors in one book, and each author is a chapter, they write a chapter in the book. That alone, they could charge you anywhere between from $1,000 to $5,000 for that kind of bestseller So they do promise to drive it to a bestseller. But you know what? It's pretty easy if you have like 30 people marketing it. So it's pretty damn easy to do that. The difference between that kind of book and having your own book, like just you by yourself, huge difference. That's where the real credibility is. Because you know what? If right now I am already an international bestseller, but I'm one of the chapters. And that's the reason why I've never given my book to anyone, even though I could claim the title. But man, it's not something that I'm proud of to give away, even though that chapter is definitely my story. But I wanted to really give away a real book of mine, and also to build a legacy. And if you're going to write a book, might as well make it a bestseller. That's the difference between having Steve on your side or not. Because to me, writing a book and getting up on Amazon, that is, anyone can do it really, if you have the time and to do it. But to get it to a bestseller, that's the difference. So thank you for your generosity, Steve. So let's just open up for Q&A. Does anyone have any questions?
So Christy asks, my original book is a subject near to my heart. However, it's not a subject that has anything to do with either of my businesses. Should I start with it or one related to one of my businesses? So there's two answers to that question. Number one is, when you're a best-selling author, you're a best-selling author. Doesn't matter what the topic of the book is, you still have that credential. Just like when somebody is a doctor of philosophy, they get to have that PhD. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing that in the world, but they're still Dr. So-and-so. And even when they retire, they'll always be for their whole life Dr. So-and-so. Same thing's true with you being a best-selling author. Secondarily is, and the second answer to that question is, when you share your heart with people, even though it isn't necessarily what you teach, you connect to people on a deeper level than just purely, doing a book about the thing or a book leading to your course. Now, I'll tell you that in most cases, you probably will find that then your next book needs to be something more business related, but especially if it's really close to your heart and stuff like that, that is an amazing place to start.
Great
And
question.
oh yes, by the way, we do have a program that just works with you for an existing book to market that to bestsellers, that an already done book. That's what we're doing with Peter, is he has a book that's already done, and we're just going to make him a bestseller. We have a done for you program for that.
Steve, just a follow-up on that. Is it easier to just write a new book and make it a bestseller, or does it make any difference if you already have a book that's already listed up there and now you need to make it a bestseller?
Well, I do it all the time, so it's pretty much the same for me. But there are some nuances to it. When there's the age-old saying that says, what starts out right ends up right. And when we start from scratch, we can do everything from scratch. The biggest thing that I find most of the time when you have an existing book is most people have overwritten what should be in the book. Most people have a whole entire book series that they published as one book. And that's often one of the things I will suggest to a person with an existing book, is we will actually first do a content review of it and show them, break it into a trilogy or 2 books or 6 books or, whatever it might be.
Great point. I love reading those tiny books, and I look forward to the next, the trilogy, or, the series. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Think
I
about
didn't know
how
that John Maxwell have the series of books like that, but that is so smart.
Yeah. Think about how powerful it would be. And all of us have, you got to take kids to the doctor, or you're waiting in car line for the kid, or, they're at volleyball practice or whatever it might be. And you're just sitting there with downtime that you can't do much with. Worse yet, when you're in those downtimes and you also don't have a good internet connection. Imagine if you could pick up a book get something that you could just immediately take action on, just a little, I mean, it's not like it, again, like I said, we're not curing cancer. We're just giving people a little tiny thing. Imagine the difference that can make. Then that trip to the doctor can literally be revolutionary in your life.
You basically sold me on writing short books now instead of long books. So good. Actually, there's a really good question for you in the chat.
Yeah, there's a couple of them here. So Christy says, with what you said, if my original book has 3 main sections, should those be 3 different books? Now keep in mind, I haven't seen your book, but in almost every case, I would say yes. There are a few exceptions to that, but in almost every case, I would say yes, that really should be 3 books. And then take them on a journey with them. Even better yet, if you can cliffhang a person and you can leave them just desperate for the next book. I gotta know what happens next to this person. What happened to Aunt Jan, Quinn? That's a perfect way to get them to want book 2.
Right.
So yeah, in most cases, that definitely is. And then the next question we have is, my journey started with a brush with death, which is how I got on the path to purpose. On my path, I discover self. Do I share all of those steps with my death experience being the starting point, or do I just start at the finding myself point? So in our section 1, and there's a couple of different ways to do specifically the book you're talking about. The number 1 question we would begin to start with is, what's in it for the reader? And what does the reader need from your story? To determine whether or not we're writing a whole book about your journey from to, or if we're just using what your brush with death and you're coming back as your section 1. In most cases, if you're writing a book to do a transformation for somebody else or to teach a business principle for somebody else, that's going to be the dip part of your section 1. That's going to be the, things are great now, but I almost died, or I did die and I came back. Let me tell you, I'm not just using that as a, ooh, I almost died. Let me give you some specifics. And in some cases, the beginning part of that story is the longest part of the book, because it's that connection is what the book is for. So our next question is, and follow up if you have more questions on as I'm answering this. Thank you for abundance and sincere sharing, Steve. I look forward to your ebook on marketing. Mike, absolutely. I look forward to sharing it with you. It really came from my heart. It was the first time I really felt like in a business setting, I really put my heart out in the way that I really wanted to. So I look forward to sharing it with you guys. But if the points are interrelated, should each still have a book of its own, and all of those books contain the glue that makes the points interact with the same end result? So again, it comes down to, at the end of section 1, there's 3 possibilities at the end of section 1 before you go to section 2. Number 1 is you leave a person broken, meaning they need to be fixed before they can stop reading. Okay, because we don't want to leave somebody in a broken state where we've torn them down and now we need to build them back up. And so in that case, you would definitely want to go on to number 2. The second option is that there is some book 2. I mean, we know section 2 is important, so don't even think that in any way I'm saying that, but there is some real power in that. I want to know what's in section 2, that cliffhanger. That's why cliffhangers work so well. That's why most TV shows, now there's binge watching and all that kind of stuff, but most people, when you binge watch a show that's on network, after you then get caught up, then you get yourself watching it every single week, even though you could wait for 6 months and watch the whole series, watch that whole year. It's that same kind of thing. So there's some real power in that cliffhanger. And most importantly is, if at the end of section 1, there is an action that I need to take before I move on to section 2, big or little, it doesn't matter how big the action is, but if I should be doing something before I go on to section 2, then absolutely I need to stop there. And often, it's that glue that makes the series work versus it's that glue that makes the points work. And of course, I have content reviewers that can go through that in more detail with you if you want specifics on your exact book. I am definitely giving high level. I have not looked at the content of your book at all. So, don't go and make it into 3 books and then be like, it totally failed because Steve told me on a, hour and 15-minute time on Zoom that I should do it. Okay, so section 1, Latia, is this is who I am today, but it hasn't always been that way. And this is what I learned. The this is who I am is, what does life look like now? Meaning, what are the things that the people that are reading the book would like for their life to look like? So it's not bragging, it's about showing them an example of what it is. And then share with them what you went through, be vulnerable. And then what did you discover and how did you learn it? Anne Marie has a question. You should be able to unmute and ask.
Okay. I just would like your opinion on this. Your model has turned me inside out and upside down, and I've just thrown out 3 ideas that I came here with today. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I have to start from scratch.
You're welcome.
Okay. What do you think? I teach mindfulness, stress, burnout, and things of that nature, which has a lot to do with mental health and mindset. And I'm thinking for my 4th idea to create, these are pillars, they're not step-by-step formula. What is your experience about including something that is maybe a workbook within a book? So that if a question was posed to someone to ask right then and there, and then you rephrase that question, that they have to answer it in a different way. Do those type of books sell?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, let me be clear. There is no money in books. I'm sitting here talking to you and telling you all you need to have a book. And now I just told you you're not going to make any money from it. The money does not come from the book. The money comes from everything the book's going to do. Think about your book like whatever degree you got, whether it's elementary school or high school or college or master's degree or a doctorate, doesn't matter. They give you a certificate of your achievement, and then they give you a bill for how much it costs to get that. That's essentially what happens when you graduate. You went through all of school and now you get the bill. That's really your book from a marketing standpoint. And it's important to note, I'm a marketing company with a strong publishing division. I've been a marketing company since 1988. So I always look at it at how can we best market you. And your best-selling book is the foundational element for anything you're going to do in marketing. If you don't have the phrase bestseller, best-selling author as part of your marketing, you will never market at the level you could. And the reason why I wanted to say that before I directly answer your question is I want to make sure that we're writing the book for the right reasons. Now, you can make money. Carl makes a ton of money off of his book. Don't get me wrong. But Carl, spends a lot of, he spends more time selling his book than most people spend in a month selling their courses or their speaking. It's, he's that kind of hard grinding kind of person, and he will run up to somebody like Common and say, hey, here's my book, you're in it, sign it, here, we'll take a picture. He really pushes it. For most of us with the course you're talking about, what we're going to do is give them some elements of workbook in there. So some basic thought-provoking questions to get them started in it. But to really go through the whole course, at the end of it, we're actually going to sell them, this has gotten your juices flowing. You really need to take my 6-week, 8-week, 12-week course on this. And that's when we're going to do it. Because, if we sell a book for $10, $20, whatever, that is our whole $2,000 course, kind of defeats the purpose of having the $2,000 course. So the short answer is yes. The questions in there and workbook works really well. I've even got a book I'm working on right now that is literally the journal for a person's course. And that is another option is just, and we're doing it A, because we need it to be the marketing of the bestseller, and B, because that particular journal is going to sell at like $50. And when they then print the journal, they actually are having it hardbound, the journal, and send it to them when they join the course. It's an additional free giveaway that's in it. So
yeah, that answers my question, because I was thinking of it exactly in the way that you were prefacing it, that it's like a marketing piece. It's not a course, but boy, now I have to have this course to answer these questions in the workbook. So, okay, thank you.
And Christy, follow up with me if what I just said didn't also answer your, what about having the workbook as included with the cost of the workshop? Because that is exactly what that client that I'm working with right now is doing is, and the Amazon price for that workbook is probably 5 or 10 times more than what you would just sell it if there was no course for it. We're literally doing it to justify price. And we're doing some things like we're doing it in full color, which is extremely expensive if you wanted to actually buy it. But because they're actually going to send them a version that's printed outside of Amazon, it really gives a real good justification from Amazon, a third-party source where people buy books. And then if somebody just wants the book, let's be honest, in 2021, if you want to buy a book, you go to Amazon. It was 80% before COVID. Since COVID, it's so high, over 90%, that you may as well just say Amazon sells books. Where do you want to get a book? Amazon. Yes, kind of like a fire shot side chat with maybe 3 to 5 questions at the end of each chapter. That would be a really good use for it, Latia.
What I really love about your way of teaching us how to write a bestseller is we're going to have a lot of bestsellers, not just one. Yeah, this is so good. Any other questions? Actually, you know what, Steve, maybe can you give our audience here a little bit, I see a raised hand from Peter here. But after Peter's question, maybe Steve, can you give a little bit of a sneak peek into Saturday and Sunday so that people know what to expect?
Absolutely. So Peter, your question, and then we'll talk a little bit about the weekend.
Yeah, the question might be unique to me, but so most of what you said, I'm pleased about. As you said, I finished my book, and I think I did follow that formula. What was my experience and what did I learn from it, share. So I think that's there. But then one thing you said kind of scared me is that my book, I looked at 250 words a page. I have 76,711 words. It's 306 pages. And I didn't dictate it. So, the question may be unique to me. I guess I wanted to be thorough in my book, and it's so. And I can't really stomach the idea of, rewriting it, but, I guess the question is, should I go and make it a lot shorter? I could kind of visualize it. It'd be a bunch of work, but, then if it was 100 pages, I could sure see that people would be more likely to read it,
Right. So let me preface this by saying Peter is one of my new clients that's been with me for about a week now. So he's already directly working with me. So you're also getting to see a little bit behind the scenes of working with Steve. Peter, one of the first things we want to do once you get the book to me is I want to send it to the content reviewer and have her actually go through it and see if there are places where either one, you're redundantly covering things that aren't necessary in there. And we're going to suggest it to you. So a content review is always intended to be suggestions. You have the final say. And then she'll also be looking at, is there a place where, like I was saying before, you really should do X before you do Y? And then we can talk about the possibility of breaking it into 2 books versus 1. But that'll be the first thing we'll do as part of what we're doing together is that I'll send it over to the content reviewer first and give you that content review of the content you send me.
It sounds great. I want to say to the group regarding writing a book, I've always wanted to write a book, and I gave myself a deadline because I teach, so I only have the summer. And I just gave myself a deadline to have it finished by the end of the summer, and I did. So it might help you to have a deadline, even if it's artificial. I guess it isn't published yet, but it's very close. Also, I'm really impressed with Steve. He's just got a lot of enthusiasm, experience. So yeah, I hired him. I figure I'm make all that effort to write a book. Might as well get an expert to help me market it. So
thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
So I do want to answer John's question, but let me answer Quinn's first. So give you a little sneak peek of this weekend. We're going to have so much fun. We are going to start off tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's, late in the day for those of you that are East Coast, but that's okay. We're going late in the night for you. So at 9 a.m. Tomorrow morning, we're going to start off talking about your why. Why are you even writing the book? And then we're going to move into who and what. Who is it for and what do they need? And at the end of the day, really, our book is only as good as it helps the person reading it. Now, there is a thing called a legacy book, and I do have a legacy package, and I do charge considerably more for it because those books are all just about, look at me, look at me, look at me. They're celebrity tell-all books, where the celebrity is telling all about themselves, and they don't really have any thought of anybody. And I don't think anybody in this room is even in that place, but we've all seen, celebrities that have done that, that kind of book. And so we do have the capability of doing that, but typically we're talking about who is the book for, what does that person need? That's going to be where we start. And then we're going to dig deep into what are the words that that person would use. And we're going to go through this whole entire workshop that we did today in detail and break down each of those 3 sections under each of the 4 sections and ask you specific questions about that. And then after we've got some really great notes for ourselves, we're going to break up into, then you get to see a really fun thing. I'm going to actually live interview Quinn. We're going to write her book right there. In fact, we're going to turn on transcribe in Zoom. And you can actually watch the words. If you want to open up the transcript, you can actually see the transcription. Sure. So you can now see transcript at the bottom. And if you clicked over on the right-hand side, there's actually, down at the bottom, you have the capability of being able to, under transcript, you can actually view the full transcript. In your more button is view full transcript, and over where your chat is, it'll actually show the whole thing. Now, there's a few times when you'll say a word that comes across a little kooky, but I really have been impressed with how well Zoom's transcript does. Another one that I really love is the Google voice to type, and that's the one that you'll be doing. So after Quinn and I spend an hour or so getting the content for her book, I'm actually going to take that transcript and I'm going to be sending it to my senior editor. She's actually taking a couple hours out of a busy weekend because she's got like 3 birthday parties to go to this weekend, but she's like, no, I'll help you guys out for this. And she's gonna do a basic edit for the book, a basic edit and a basic format for the book. And she's gonna do that. While then the next thing we're gonna do is actually split you off into groups of 2 and have you back and forth interview each other. So the person 1 will get an hour and person 2 will be interviewing person 1, and then you'll flip. And that's where the voice to text, the voice typing in Google Doc. Because what you'll want to do is have that open separately. And while you're talking, have it be doing a transcript for you, just like this is doing. I wanted to do it here inside of Zoom, but unfortunately, when we send you to breakout rooms, it won't transcribe those for us. So make sure that you have a Google, you know how to open up a Google document, and you can click on voice typing and then the little recording button. And I sent all of you a video on how to do that. That will be, and then we'll do Q&A at the end of that day. And maybe even show you a little sneak peek, depending on how quick Melissa is, of the initial edit of Quinn's book. And then Sunday, we're going to talk about your cover. And I'm going to actually teach you how you can do your cover all yourself. Now, you may end up finding out that you still want to hire somebody, and that's fine too. But we're going to show you how you can do the cover in Canva and those kind of things. And then we're going to talk at the end of Sunday about marketing your book, how to upload it to Amazon and get it on print on demand, how to make sure you own 100% of your book, and you have all the rights and royalties for it. And of course, how to make your book a bestseller. So that's a real brief overview of what our next 2 days are going to be like for those of you that either have already joined or are looking forward to.
That's so exciting, Steve. By the way, this live transcription is incredible. It got you almost like 95% correct. Amazing.
Oh yeah, it's of all the transcript, just for those of you who want to know, for like those of you who aren't going to join us this weekend or later, you're doing it again, opening up now. This is where hopefully you upgraded to VIP from Quinn and I Summit, because Quinn gave you this version of Zoom as a bonus, and you get it at a price that's cheaper than what I was paying for the paid version is, basic Zoom. And it does this transcript. And, the last 2 books that I'm working on right now, I literally just opened up Zoom, myself in there, turned on the transcribe, and just started talking the book out. And I interviewed myself. And that's one of the inside secrets to how come Steve is an 11-time international bestselling author, with a whole bunch more books coming. So John asks a bit about using different language editions for different regions. So absolutely, we are going to talk about, by the way, on Sunday about international distribution of your book, and all of the other foreign countries whose native language is not English do have a section that are books in English. So even if you do your book in English, the nature of Amazon is that for each language edition you do of your book, Amazon looks at it as though you wrote a completely different book. And so absolutely you can do it. And what you literally do is you do, here's my English translation, here's my German translation. And then you book 1, book 2, and you're just uploading them as though they were 2 different books. I hope I said that in a way that made sense. John is also asking, do I use Unsplash for pics for the cover? This is going to scare most of you, but I am going to actually strongly suggest to you that the cover of your book be you. We buy from people that we know, like, and trust. And the first step in know, like, and trust is your shiny face on the cover. you're looking at them and smiling and saying, hey, how you doing? We connect face to face. And I know there's the old saying that says you don't judge a book by its cover, but we all do judge books by their cover. And if there is a reason where either A, you don't want to do what I'm suggesting to you, or B, you shouldn't have your face on the cover for various reasons, then yes, Unsplash would be the best place to start with. Sometimes you can't find, and that's unsplash.com for those of you that are wondering. It's stock photos that you can use for free that are allowed to be distributed on printed documents. I think Hugh Ann had a question. I thought I saw her raise her hand earlier.
Actually, the question was, I have this 92-year-old fighter pilot. He wrote a book. It's not published anyway yet. It was just like, it's more of like a memoir almost, but there, I guess, 70 years of flying and a lot of juicy stories and through all the tribulation, and he's now 92. And I was thinking, well, right now I think it was like 80 pages of 200 words. It's like a thick, right? It's like when you're talking about full A4 pages, which is about 80 of this small printed book. And it's like, how does that books like that will sell on sort of it's more, yeah, his title, obviously you need to work on title stuff like 7 years of flying. Obviously, that title definitely not gonna capture the audience, but like, yeah, so it's like pretty much his whole 70 years of flying, of history of flying.
I absolutely love books like that, especially for people that are his age. I wish everybody somewhere between 70 and the end of their life would write a book so that there's something in print that we can then 5 years, 500 years from now know about who they are. I always tell the story of a guy that I know that was literally one of the founders of the state of Washington, way before Washington was a state. And in doing the research on him, fortunately, he was a Mason. So there was a couple of articles the Masons had saved. But other than that, on microfiche in the newspaper, the little, one paragraph was all that anybody knew about his life. And the guy was amazing. I mean, he literally was the founder of the very first city in the state of Washington back when it was the Northwest Territory or whatever it was called. And so, yeah, absolutely. To give you an idea with that book, 80 pages, 8.5 by 11 single spaced typed book. Each page typically is going to be between 4 and 8 pages formatted.
So that'll be like 240 pages, I know for sure. I got to
Yeah,
interview them for I got to interview them for 2 hours to write their love story. 2 hours, I shrunk it down to 250 words for a magazine here.
Yeah. It's going to be somewhere between 240 and 500, depending on the words he's using and some different things we can do for formatting. But in that particular case, with a book like that, that's not what I was referring to when I was talking about celebrity legacies. That is the kind of legacy book I love doing. Those are so great. And I have a group of veterans that I'm in a mastermind with that would just absolutely eat that book up. So yeah, I hope he does share it with the world.
Tell him to attend this event, Hui.
Right. Yeah, no, I would like, he got the book down. He have them in print. I have a copy of his book actually.
Oh,
now.
it's already done. Okay. Yeah.
He sent it to me, and I'm trying to find him bright people to get it up and give it some life to it while he's still alive. So he's 93. Actually, he's 93 last week, actually, not 92. So.
And there was a slide in my presentation, but let me reiterate, I can take any book from interview to bestseller in as little as 30 days.
Mhm.
And it's always 30 to 90 days. If we go over 90 days, honestly, there's something you're dealing with either emotionally or just life. Life happens. Kids go to school, people get sick, COVID, stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely. We could help him take that across the finish line, especially where it's already written. We could do that very quickly. And
Okay.
any of you that ever want to talk, if you go to askstevekid.com, you can get on my schedule and we'll talk for 10, 15 minutes about what you have going on. I'm always glad to help people out. Those aren't lifelines like what I'm giving as a bonus for the $500 package we talked about, but I will, talk to you about your project and see what I can do to help.
Got it. By the way, Erica is absolutely, she wants to go to sleep. Is there anything we need to let her know before she goes to bed? Because I believe she has a ticket for the entire event. So is there anything you want to get her prepared for the workshop tomorrow, Steve?
Take your notes. In this particular case, go to sleep. Don't worry about them. You'll be up in the morning long before we get started. Just take some time to go through them and kind of make sure that you have a feel for, what you want to do and who you want to do it for. And we'll pick up pretty much right where we left off here tomorrow morning. Well, what is for me tomorrow morning. I appreciate you
Thanks.
staying up so
Have a
late
good
with
night,
us though,
Erica.
Erica.
So I just want to answer one of the questions that Megan posted for me directly. Was she wanted to know what the weekend was, the weekend workshop. So Megan, I'm actually not sure if you just got in or you missed the part where Steve shared what the next 2 days is going to be like. I'm not sure if you were here for that point or not. Yeah, Megan, just unmute yourself and ask your question if you can. Then that way I don't have to wait for your.
Hi.
Hi, Megan.
Hi. I was here for the first part of the presentation and I had to leave in the middle. So maybe I missed that part.
Oh, well, so basically tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, we basically is going to be letting you. So today you saw what needs to be done to finish your book or to write your book. And of course,
Yes.
Steve said to speak to write, not to actually write it. And so therefore tomorrow, we're going to finish tomorrow with you partnering with someone else to do the interview. So that means your transcription will be done. And so at least the draft version will be done. And then day Sunday is where Steve is going to help you do the cover of the book. And then of course the best thing, which is how to get it to a bestseller. But does that answer your question, Megan, yet? Or do you have any other questions?
I just didn't, was there an email that went out describing this? I just got the email for this event right now.
Oh,
You should have
so
one
Megan,
if
you
you
are
pay.
attending the free Friday workshop, right? You're not registered for the entire 3 days yet, are you?
No, because that's all I knew about was this Friday workshop.
Perfect. So Steve, why don't you let everyone else knows about the incredible, generous offer that you gave for people who wants to attend and finish their book by this weekend. So just so you know, I am finishing my book this weekend with Steve. He's going to interview me and draw out my book, and then you will get to do that with a partner. And of course, whoever is doing this work this weekend, either you have paid to be here or you have won a ticket that is worth at least $1,000 to be here to do this work. So attend it like you're going to finish your book this weekend. So Steve, why don't you share with Megan here what the great deal that you just gave everybody?
Sure. So this weekend, we're doing our virtual writing retreat. We are taking what is typically a 12-step program that usually most people do in 12 weeks. And we are distilling it down into a direct. Those are usually videos and automated work at your own pace. I'm going to actually personally teach it to you and walk you through all 12 of those steps over the next 2 days. We're going to identify who is your client, what is their need, what words are going to work best for them. And then we're literally going to speak to write your book. I'll break up into groups of 2. You're going to work with a person and They're going to write their book. You're going to write your book and interview each other. We're going to learn how to do the cover for your book. And we're going to learn how to market the book to bestseller. That program normally, when it's just in video, when it's just a work at your own pace video class, is an $1,800 class. When I teach it, it's at least $3,000, often more than that. But I'm actually offering you guys not only access to both days, but for anybody that wants the recordings of it, rather than $1,800 or even the $1,000, I'm gonna let you have all the recordings of the whole entire weekend for $500.
And the bonus, which is like incredible, which is what I would buy it for, is to get you.
Yeah, and the bonus is I'm going to give you one free lifeline that is a 30-minute help me Steve call, whatever thing you might be held up on, whether that's you want me to interview you for 30 minutes or you need me to upload your book for you or do a format for you or whatever might help you the most. Maybe it's a coaching session. Maybe you've gotten to that point where you've opened yourself up enough that now you're like, that happens to all of us, by the way, and you need, just somebody to tell you how amazing you are, whatever's going to work best for you for that 30 minutes. Normally I charge $1,200 an hour for my time, but I'm giving that to you as a free bonus, just for signing up and being with us. Well,
And you know what, Steve? We might as well just throw
reply.
in for anyone who registers for it, the Zoom version that can get you the transcription. So you get that Zoom version. I will send you the special link to sign up for Zoom, where you only pay $14 a month and you get the enterprise level, which is like at least $80 a month. And then you have to have 10 accounts, like in order for you to get that level. You get unlimited cloud storage and also the transcription service for only $14 a month. So that link, I'm going to send it to you so you can actually set it up. So for the interview that you will be doing with your partner tomorrow, either you do it with Google Voice, or I would suggest you can just jump off and do it on your own Zoom meeting account, where you can actually save the recording and have this all done.
that is this new version of Zoom. And just for those of you who know, you go from zero, the free one where you get kicked off every 30 minutes on Zoom, to $15. So to get this level, the enterprise level, for $13.99 for $14 a month, that's cheaper than, it's an unbelievable great deal, and so cool to be able to have all the functionalities and all the stuff with it.
But you know what though? I just wanted to reiterate my breakthrough in the last almost 2 hours now, Steve, is that I had no idea that I should be writing a short book, and your demonstration, your demo of why it should be a short book is like, I'm sold. So no need to write a long book. Shorter, people get it. They read it in an hour, like a coffee break or a flight. That makes a difference. And it just makes it easier for us to write several books versus one book that is like, because the problem with us writing a really good long book is it takes us longer to get it done, versus the way that you've just taught us today. The book is impactful. It gets people to take an action that might change their life, and it's easy to write. Oh, I love it. And that's the reason why we're going to finish your book this weekend, folks. Let's do it.
Statistically, your reader will actually finish your book.
Right.
And that's important because we want to change people's lives.
Right. So Marla is asking, what's the link to register, please?
The link to register, I will drop it in the chat again, is bestsellerworkshop.com.
One of the best things that I love when I do any kind of work, whether I'm creating a course or whether I'm helping a client create a course, I always do a live workshop because it gets done. And so for you, if you're watching this, if you want your book to be done this weekend, I highly recommend you to just get it done this weekend with us. Because the fact that you get access to Steve, that lifeline call, is the difference between you being a bestseller or not. I believe, I truly believe that. So thanks, Steve, for being for giving us that generous bonus. And John, the Zoom Enterprise version is, you can pay it monthly or annually. It's just $14 a month, and you can also pay it annually. But for me, I just pay it monthly because you don't save anything being on the annual plan. So might as well just do it monthly.
So for the people who win the tickets, do we get the 30-minute to you, Steve?
No,
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 that's just for the
no.
people just getting
Yeah.
it this weekend. Yes.
The free tickets
Clarify
you
that.
have, the free ticket, you have access for free for all weekend, but you don't get the recordings and you don't get the 30 minutes with me.
right.
Okay.
So it's totally worth the $500 just for the recordings, let alone the $500 for 30 minutes to get Steve.
Yes. The lifeline call is
You can
actually
just,
why I
you
would
can just
buy
tell
you.
people I'm buying Steve for $500.
Yes,
you know?
exactly. I can't believe you're on sale for 500, but seriously, that is super, super generous of you. Thank you, Steve.
Well, Quinn, I'll even let people all the way behind the curtain. Okay. So I'm going to be total, because I've talked to you guys the whole time about being vulnerable and valuable to people, right? So those of you that were at our summit, which I know most of you were, we had a speaker there, Jerry. What's Jerry's last name?
Foster.
Yes, Jerry Foster. Jerry is an amazing branding person, been doing it forever. Used to work for, little companies like Procter & Gamble and stuff like that. I had a meeting with Jerry last week, and Jerry has some really exciting things he wants to do with my brand. In fact, he wants me to take the company to being branded as Steve Kidd versus what we're doing right now. I'm terrified and excited all at the same time. And he made me a deal that is unbelievable. It's even better than getting Steve for $500. However, I have to fund it like everything else, right? And, most of us don't live our lives where we just have extra money sitting in the bank in case somebody makes us a killer offer. I get that. So honestly, the money from any and all of you that pay the $500, that's the number one thing. And there's other things if it goes more than that, but that's the number one thing I'm going to be using it for, is to be able to bring Jerry into my life as a coach. And I'm so excited about it. I'm not in any way trying to high pressure any of you guys. I'm just telling you, I have an opportunity and I'm willing to sell myself to you to take up that opportunity.
No, but you know what? I think if anyone is ready to write the bestseller, I think this is a no-brainer decision. It's just that sometimes the people who might not be ready is like, I don't know what I'm going to write yet. And I'm not sure if I'm ready to become a bestseller yet, because, writing a book, it's going to take some, you gotta own your experience, your story to write this book, because now it becomes public. Because after all, you're gonna become a bestseller and you want that book to be read. And some people are not ready for that yet. And so I think it's just a matter of whoever is ready for it, they're gonna come this weekend. Actually, we have a question from Mopilola. Mopilola, please unmute and ask.
Yes, so you mentioned something that what if you don't even know what you want to write yet and you're not quite sure yet. So how's this weekend gonna be beneficial in that sense? Like I have tons of things I could write, but I haven't really nailed it down to specific yet.
That is where we're going to start Saturday. That is the number one thing we want to make sure is, what do you want to write? More importantly, what do you need to write right now? More importantly, even than that, is what do the people you're meant to serve need from you first, right now? That's what we're going to start tomorrow morning off with is, why are you doing this? And most importantly, who are you doing it for and what do they need? And we're going to take all those things. We'll even discuss it in there of, there may be 5 things, 20 things. but what is the one thing that, if you had only had 5 minutes with that very perfect person. And one of the things we're going to do in the who is really identify who is that very perfect person, and then talk about what do they need. And we're even going to do some fun activities to be able to go in and actually research what do they need, so that it's not just us guessing, but we're actually going to do some research and look and find out so that we know for sure.
Mapilola, were you here when Steve was sharing was teaching the first hour? Because that entire recording, for any of you who he's still unclear a little bit, I think it would serve you to watch that again and make some notes. And perhaps if you have 3 books in mind right now, tomorrow start with one. Start with the first one that is the first thing that you want to write on. And either on your business, or if not for your business, for your legacy. And by the way, when I mean legacy, it's about you leaving a message even after you leave this earth, right? But I would suggest that you could just watch that video again. This will be available right after we're done here. He's going to put it in the Facebook group or Facebook page.
On my Facebook page, and I'll email it out to you.
Okay, thank you so much.
I know, Steve, from just this workshop alone, I know I already have probably 3 books that I need to write. So, and it's really exciting. And then not alone, and then with the 6 steps, if I'm gonna have to split up into 6 books, that's like 9 books. So this is so exciting. This is so exciting. Yeah. And you know what? Once you've gained the skill, this is the beauty of this, guys. Once you've gained how to do this, the first book, you do it with Steve. But the second, the third, you do it on your own, because now you already know how to do it. And of course, you always have access to Steve in the future if you just want to hire him for like a quick consultation again. But at least you know that every single time you want to write in the book, you have the process, you have the system, and you have access to the man who can make it a bestseller for you. So,
yeah.
One more question, if you don't mind, please.
Yeah.
So I actually just got enrolled in the 9-week session with Kathy. So I'm just like, now I'm already enrolled in that. And then this came up, like, actually literally just enrolled like a couple of days ago. And here I am, that I could do this in just the weekend. So I'm like, okay. I don't know.
So for those of you who don't know, Kathy is my ex-wife. And she does teach a 9-week class. That's called the 9-week bestseller formula. And it is 9 lessons and weekly Q&A. So it is a very powerful class. It's based off of this same formula, because she was my business partner up until a year and a half ago when she left me. And we won't go too deep into that because we don't want to oppress everybody, but it's all good. But it is a very powerful class, and I would probably even actually feel bad about it if you didn't take that class. But if you want to still do it with this weekend, the 9-week class will just do it. And if you need a little more time than staying in the class, just please don't unregister from the class, because then, divorce. We won't go any deeper than that. Life happens, right? How did I do, Quinn? Did I handle that gently?
no, I don't know what to say, because obviously both you and your ex, and I didn't know that Kathy was your ex, that are teaching the same thing, and you both are partners in this business, so both of you can help people launch the bestseller. So that's not the issue. The issue is, number one, we're going to do this in this weekend for you versus in 9 weeks. So you know what, 500 extra to get Steve's advice as well. I think it would be worth it, because I know, guys, as far as the pricing is concerned, I don't think you can ever find a deal as good as this. because I have worked with other authors and people who help authors launch their bestseller. I mean, not authors, but the publishers who help people launch the bestsellers. Nothing is as fast and effective and as affordable as this right now. So seriously, I don't think you can miss out on this opportunity. But if you're already in Kathy's program, you're going to get there. It's just that it's going to take you a little longer. That's all. And maybe perhaps the entire system, you would still own it and you can create the next book. It's just that the timing is kind of good here. And maybe you can private chat with Steve and see if he can give you maybe an extra better deal or something to have you have both. Because I don't want you to not do Kathy's program to join us here, although I'm not sure what you pay for Kathy, but you know what, that's just connect with Steve privately, please, for that. And for the rest of you, if you're ready to launch your bestseller this weekend, I'd say let's do it. Let's do it. Come on, let's do this. I can't believe Steve made it look so easy. And he made it look like we're just gonna rinse and repeat this every single time we launch another book. This is so good. The workshop starts Sunday at the same time, 9 a.m. Pacific till 5 p.m. And you know what? Here's the truth. This is another truth that I want you to go behind the curtain with. This is the first time that Steve does this in a weekend format. The reason why is because I wanted that to be done that quick. Because for me, myself, I wanted to work with someone who can help me launch a book in a weekend. And if we might need to work with you a little longer, meaning, let's say Steve said, you know what, I want to do another half day or another day, we'll just do it the following weekend or something. We'll work it out. But basically, this is what the schedule is for right now, but we're going to go with the flow and see what you will need. And the purpose for us is to make sure that you get the result, not for us just to quit when it's done. No, we want you to get your book done.
Yes, most definitely.
So with that in mind, we are at the 2-hour mark or more, I believe. Is there any other last questions around the workshop for tomorrow and Sunday or anything else? Steve,
I'm
I
here.
might
I'll
not
stick
sleep
along
tonight.
as
Too
good.
excited, that's why.
You
I'm too
never sleep
excited.
anyway. Quinn's constantly texting me, and it's like midnight my time, which means that it's tomorrow already where she is. Quinn never sleeps anyway. Seriously, if you have any other questions, I'm here. I'll stick in as long as you want to keep asking questions. And if you're done, we don't have to hit a specific time marker for this at all either. So just whatever I can do to help you.
Sounds good. Let's get ready to write our best book, our bestseller tomorrow.
Thank you.
And as I said in that final frame, guys, remember, somebody's waiting on you. Somebody made a bad decision today, yesterday, last week, last month, and you have that thing. And honestly, we all do it. You probably do it so easily that you don't even, in all the things you've thought of doing with your book, you haven't even thought of that thing because it's too easy for you. And you just have said in your mind, oh, everybody knows how to do that. And the truth of the matter is that's very likely the very thing that somebody is really struggling with that could really change their world if you shared with them. And so I just encourage you to really keep in mind, all of us, all the gifts that we have inside of us, they were never meant for us. They're meant for the people that we can help. Imagine what our world would be like if each of us just woke up and said, how can I be the best version of me today? Yesterday's gone. If I need to apologize for something from yesterday, absolutely, I'll do that. Tomorrow, hopefully I'll get here, but we don't know. As a friend of mine used to say, it's a promissory note. Today is the only legal tender you can spend. Let's maximize while it's called today and do all that we can do whether it be take your notes now and write that book, or sign up to join us, or get really good sleep so you're really ready for tomorrow, or stay up all night like Quinn's going to do. Whatever is going to be the best use of you for today. I want to be the first one to thank you for showing up powerfully in the world and being the amazing person today that is you.
Thank you so much, Steve, for helping us do our work and put our message out there in the world. And thank you for all of you who have attended so far. And we look forward to working with you this weekend or in the future to get your message out to the world.